The Q101 Morning Crew.
On Q101.
Brian and Kenzie on Q101. And it's time for Kenzie's Krimes. Here we go. Kenzie introduces a crime mystery around Chicagoland or Illinois. And me and Case know nothing about the case. So sometimes we've heard some bits and pieces of it. Sometimes we know about it. But I always learn something when Kenzie does these deep dives on this thing. I always learn something more.
Yeah. So I'll ask you guys both right now, have you ever heard the name Tammy Zywicki?
Tammy Zywicki. Off the top of my head, no.
I cannot say I'm familiar.
Okay.
No, nothing? Ringing no bells?
Ringing no bells right at the moment.
Bells aren't wrong. Okay, so from here on out in your life, if someone ever says, have you heard of Tammy Zywicki, you're going to know, okay?
Okay.
So Tammy Zywicki was born in Pleasant Hill, Pennsylvania, and grew up in Greenville, South Carolina. She was known as a talented photographer, soccer player, and a lover of all things James Dean, which is so funny because we were just talking about James Dean because I only know Jimmy Dean. And I'm like, oh, my God, what are the odds?
How's James Dean's sausage?
I don't know, but I thought they were, like, related. I thought it was a successful family. But anyways, this girl is so Case's type, by the way. Because she's super blonde hair, blue-eyed, really sweet, all that action. That's
Seems lovely. It seems like a criticism when you said that, but I love nice blonde women.
I know. Like, she's very Aryan raised, that's Case's thing.
That's not what I'm looking for.
It is. Okay.
I just happen to like pale blonde women, and that's all there is to it.
What are the odds?
Shocker.
Now, just as a reminder of how awesome, I was so intrigued by how great the summer of 1992 in Chicago was. I'm going to give you guys a quick recap right now.
Okay.
So Michael Jordan and the Bulls won their second NBA championship.
Hell yes.
Jordan and Scottie Pippen went on to play the Dream Team in the 1992 Summer Olympics in Barcelona.
Right.
The Blackhawks made the Stanley Cup Finals.
Wow.
And Lollapalooza was a touring event still, so the stop made at Tinley Park. The headliners were the Red Hot Chili Peppers,
Wow.
Ministry,
Yes.
Ice Cube, Soundgarden,
Yep.
Pearl Jam, and that same summer in June, the Grateful Dead played at Soldier Field.
Hell yes. What a summer.
Is that not insane?
That's incredible.
It's like this. It's like a Q101 summer or something. It's unbelievable when I saw this.
Can we go back, please?
I mean, I was just like, wow. No wonder you're always so excited about like 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What a summer.
Pretty damn good stuff.
So that kind of blew my mind just looking at that lineup and everything that was going on. So think about it like Chicago, and really it was buzzing. This city, this state, it was on a high, right? But things became significantly less awesome starting August 23rd, 1992. So that is when 21-year-old Tammy Zywicki vanished while driving to Grinnell College in Iowa.
Wow.
This was for the start of her fall semester. So according to the FBI, Zywicki's brother, Darren, joined her on that road trip. So she began from their home in New Jersey on August 22nd, and that was the day before her disappearance. So the first stop was in Evanston, Illinois, where Tammy dropped off her brother at Northwestern University. Ironically, that's not where the crime took place. That is where he attended college. And that night, she stayed with a friend, and they planned she planned to drive out the next day, right? So recouping for the night, dropped her brother off at college at Northwestern, right in Evanston, and then was hitting the road towards Iowa the next day, right?
Okay.
So it's the next day. While driving to her destination, Zywicki's vehicle, a white 1985 Pontiac, if that means anything to anybody, because I don't know what that would look like, but I just see a white car.
I picture it. I got it.
Do you picture it?
Yes,
okay.
I do. Yeah.
It broke down in central Illinois. Now, the FBI said that more than 60 people reported seeing Tammy looking under the hood of her car that day, which was stopped at the exit for Utica, Illinois. So if anybody knows that or passes that a lot, that's kind of like where it happened.
Okay.
Now, tips to law enforcement suggested that 26 different cars pulled over to help her.
Wait,
26 cars pulled over and offered help. Yes.
26?
26. Now, could you imagine if Brian broke down, no one would stop?
No, they would drive into puddles and splash him.
Yeah, absolutely.
My car's broken down. I've never had anybody stop to help me.
No.
Ever. No.
Well, you look like a killer. I'd be scared to help you.
Like it's a setup?
Yeah, I'd be like, no, thank you.
Fool me
Yeah,
once,
I
shame
hit him
on
with
you.
the car. I would hit you. I'd be like, I know what you're up to. Okay.
Oh,
So
God.
26 different cars pulled over to help her. Now, despite all the offerings of help, Tammy never made it to the college campus in Iowa. So Tammy's car was left on the side of the road after her disappearance. It was ticketed for abandonment by Illinois State troopers, and the Illinois State Police towed the car the following day. So very quickly, it actually got marked, which is crazy. So that's the same day Tammy's mother reported her daughter missing. Now, Tammy's disappearance was not seriously investigated until several days after the initial report. So her mother reported this. The car got ticketed, towed, it was abandoned, and it took days for them to take it serious. Now, originally, police suspected she had run off with a boyfriend, even though she had no indication of a boyfriend in her life or on that trip. She had left with her brother, so it was a little bit careless initially, unfortunately, because, you know, they always say, I mean, there's a show named after the first 48, right? So it's a bummer that it wasn't taken as seriously as it needed to be right away. Now, September 1st, 8 days after she went missing, a body was found that matched her description.
Oh, God.
However, they needed several days to confirm through, you know, DNA testing, all that, right? So friends and family, this was not a relief. You know how sometimes families want to find a body or they want to do... This was not a relief to the family at all. And they were praying that it wasn't Tammy. This is only 8 days after she disappeared. They're hoping she did run off with a guy or get lost or what. They're incredibly concerned, and they're praying that it wasn't her body. They hope she was still alive. However, September 3rd, the world discovered the body was Tammy.
Oh, boy.
She was found on the side of a rural stretch of Interstate 44 in Lawrence County, Missouri. Between Springfield and Joplin. So think about how far that is from her initial disappearance.
Yeah.
Not good and obviously very suspicious. So the body was discovered by a pickup driver, and he actually gave the authorities differing stories about why he pulled over in the first place. So one of the stories was he pulled over to urinate. And this makes me think that Brian killed her because he says that all the time.
I gotta go.
Who says that?
I drink a lot of water, and I gotta go. And I tell Case and Kenzie whenever I gotta go, I go, I'm going to pee. I gotta go.
No, but
you say you're gonna urinate.
Yeah, you specifically say. So here's what happens if you. Nobody knows this because they don't work at Q101. At 10:01 every day after the show's over, Brian goes, well, I'm going to go urinate, and then I'll come back and do the promo. It's just every single day.
Yeah, I do use the word urinate.
Weird. It's weird, and that's why I think Brian should be a suspect. Okay, so moving on.
I agree.
The other was that he pulled over to cover his truck bed with a tarp in preparation for rain. So very odd that he had conflicting stories. But during the stop, he did begin smelling an unusual odor, and he spotted a large bundle on the side of the road. And it was a blanket wrapped in duct tape. Inside the blanket was a female body wrapped in a white sheet with silver duct tape covering both ends of the blanket. It was found that it was Tammy, and she was wearing the same clothes that she was last seen in. The autopsy revealed she had actually been stabbed 7 to 8 times in the chest.
Jeez.
And died from internal bleeding.
God.
Right?
Yeah, not good.
Gruesome. And also... so unnecessary. Like, why go to the I hate that. Okay.
It's a lot. It's a lot. One would have done the job, I'm sure.
So aggressive, and then I feel like that's when you know, like, what a weird, like kink that this person's going through, because, ugh. So, just after Zywicki's body was found, Grinnell's college professor at the time, Irma McLaren Allen, because nobody can ever have a normal name in any of my stories, she told a reporter during the interview that not only is the school filled with grief, but it's filled with fear. Because you have to think, this school in Iowa, it's kind of a destination just to go to a college campus. It's full of kids traveling from surrounding cities and taking these exact same roads.
Yeah.
So people were terrified. They don't know who it is. There's no motive. All she was simply doing was driving to school on the same road that most people have to drive to that school on. And she even said, it makes us feel incredibly vulnerable. Even I have to drive to Chicago on Highway 80 tomorrow, and I'm terrified.
Yeah.
What was a normal traditional drive became everyone's greatest fear. So it was believed and spotted by several people that the night of Tammy's disappearance, while having that car trouble, a semi-truck pulled over and offered her help. And Tammy actually accepted that help and got inside the truck. Now, this isn't 100%. This is a he said, she said, okay? It was described as a rust-colored truck with diagonal stripes. And once it was confirmed that Tammy's body had been found, over 2,000 people joined in to search for this specific truck, okay?
Yeah.
Now, a lead suspect was Lonnie Beerbrodot. Okay?
Wait a minute.
I'm doing my best. It's a Beerbrod. So I'm going to keep calling him Lonnie. Now, as a trucker, he was a trucker and a felon on parole. Now, I did clarify, Lonnie is a man, because at first I'm like, whoa, plot twist. But it's a guy. Never mind.
I thought right away Lonnie was a guy. I know.
Really?
I know a couple guys named Lonnie.
I thought it was a girl. Like, Lonnie sounds like adorable. And I'm like, whoa. Like, that's weird.
No, Lonnie's more like, hey, Lonnie, give me a PBR at the bar next time you go up. That's what a Lonnie is.
I imagine it as hey, Lonnie. Like, that's how I heard it. So I was like, whoa. Okay. But this is crazy to me. So what made this person, in my mind, the biggest lead suspect was one of the most unique pieces of evidence I've ever heard. And I feel like in no way this could be a coincidence. And this is where I'm going to pause because I want to know if you guys agree. Because I was like, that, like, I don't care. Like, that means you're guilty.
Oh, man. I'm so curious about Lonnie.
Okay. So we're going to get back. We're coming back and I'll do a quick recap and we're going to learn a whole lot about Lonnie.
Coming up next in 4 minutes with Brian and Kenzie on Q101.
The Q101 Morning Crew.
On Q101.
The Q101 Morning Crew.
On Q101.
Well, there you have it. The Chili Peppers, which relates to this story that Kenzie has brought up here in Kenzie's Krimes, because it took place around the time of Lollapalooza 92, where the Chili Peppers were one of the headliners of that incredible lineup of Lollapalooza back in the day.
Now, just a little recap on Kenzie's Krimes and what Brian's talking about. So this crime actually happened Chicago, summer of 92. But just a recap of what also was happening. You know, the city was bumping in the summer of 92. Probably the peak of what it's ever been.
Right.
So the Michael Jordan and the Bulls won their second NBA championship. Jordan and Scottie Pippen were on the dream team for the Summer Olympics in Barcelona. Blackhawks made it to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Whoop, whoop.
Lollapalooza's headliners, this was when it was touring, so it was at Tinley Park, was the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Ministry, Ice Cube, Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, and the Grateful Dead played at Soldier Field in June. I mean, this was just like an iconic year. And that's why one of the reasons things were so shocking and devastating, because you can just tell when a city and a state is on a positive roll, and this shook people. Tammy Zywicki was driving to Glendale College in Iowa. That is where she went to school to start her fall semester. She's 21 years old. Total sweetheart. She dropped her brother off at Northwestern in the middle of her road trip because that's where he went to school, headed to hers, had some car trouble on the side of the highway, and was never seen again.
Tragic.
Now, her body was found near Missouri, super far away, wrapped in a tarp on the side of the road. And we left off with Lonnie being a huge suspect. And I think some really, really interesting facts about why he was a suspect. So I'm excited to run this by you guys because there's one in particular that I'm like, well, that can't be a coincidence. Like, I know that you need substantial evidence, but can't we just ever say something can't be a coincidence? You know, it bothers me in court. So Lonnie was a trucker and a felon out on parole. And in case you missed the last break, It was reported that Tammy was seen on the side of the road and a truck that was rust-colored with diagonal stripes stopped, and she did get in the truck. Okay. Now, this truck didn't necessarily match that description, but of course, if you had just kidnapped somebody, you could get a different truck or something like that, right? So, okay. Lonnie was a trucker, though, and a felon out on a parole. He was also seen in LaSalle County the day of Tammy's disappearance. He also lived near where the body was found, which is a big deal because those are very far away destinations. Okay,
Yeah.
so keep that in mind. The fact that he lived near where the body was dumped, but was seen where she was kidnapped in the exact time frame of both of those things is super weird.
Stacking up against Lonnie.
Right. And obviously, the trucker thing fits as well as a felon out on parole. Okay. So this is the weirdest piece of information, though. It was reported randomly that Lonnie had given a very unique gift to somebody, and it was a music box wristwatch, which is like not super common, right? Guess what was one of the items missing out of Tammy's suitcase when it was found?
An iPhone.
No. This is why we don't play games with Ryan. A music box wristwatch. The same one that was supposedly regifted, no receipt found, matches the exact description of what was in her suitcase and what was missing out of her suitcase. He had given away as a gift.
Okay. So
How
Lonnie did it.
crazy is that?
Lonnie did it, right?
You would feel in your heart and soul. So many people had that belief that Lonnie must be the killer. All of this really tallies up. Unfortunately, despite all the beliefs and the coincidences, Lonnie was let go on a lack of evidence.
What?
I know, because they couldn't DNA there was no DNA or anything like that. So very, very frustrating. And then Lonnie passed away in 2002. Okay?
Before he went to no trial with him or nothing. He just got let go.
He got let
no
go.
Evidence.
Not enough evidence.
Oh, my God.
Unbelievable. All those crazy, crazy, crazy coincidences and just a lack of evidence. So many other names and tips flooded in. They were actually just calling them repeat tips at a certain point. Even to this day, they get a lot of tips where they're like, people think they remember seeing someone on the side of the road. There's a lot of those things, right? Okay. Unfortunately, none of these tips have ever been substantial enough, and it caused it to become a cold case. Now, it's been over 30 years.
Jeez.
However, due to how heartbreaking this case is, I mean, think about this. This is a young girl simply driving to college for a new semester.
Right.
She's doing the right thing. She drops her brother off first. She had passion. She was into photography, sports, just checking all the boxes.
She was blonde and pretty. That helps.
It's Case's favorite
Helped
scenario.
Case. Yeah.
Maybe Case is the killer.
No comments?
But because of how touching this is, the case has really never been forgotten. There's been tons of podcasts on it. There's also been a news follow-up story almost every single year talking about this, especially when school picks back up as an awareness. There's also a Facebook group titled Who Killed Tammy Zywicki, which has over 5,700 members, including Tammy's mom, where people share tips, clues, new tips that flood in. And the investigators on this case say that they actually still get tons of tips and calls about this particular case to this day, where people, hear a podcast episode and they're like, wait, I drove down that road. I think I saw that truck, or things like that happen a lot. Now, I want this to be a reminder to everybody that innocent things can turn into tragedies. And we are more fortunate now where we have easier ways to communicate. We can charge our phones in our cars so, our phone doesn't die and it's accessible. But wait for, the safest help that you can get, and do not get in a stranger's car. Don't do it, because you may just vanish out of thin air, which is the unfortunate fate of a sweet young girl named Tammy Zywicki. To this day, they don't have the killer.
So there's nothing more. I know Lonnie died. There's nothing more on Lonnie, as far as they couldn't find anything else with DNA. When technology advances, they go back to a cold case a lot.
There was no DNA evidence. A lot of people to this day believe, including the investigators, always believed it was him due to like the circumstantial evidence is super undeniable. But unfortunately, if you want to title it like this, it seems like he did a really good job in his murder because it was really, really, really difficult to trace.
God.
Now, with him being passed away, and now things are so much more technological advanced, maybe it would have been easier now to prove something like that, but he is already passed on.
Come on,
so.
a music box watch. I've never seen one in my life.
I know.
So if she had one and he had it, I don't know.
I don't know. I would say a trucker felon on parole, probably not a huge gift giver. I don't think that like falls into his category. You know what I mean? Like I just think as off the top, it's like I don't think he's out here like I gotta find the perfect gift.
We can check in with Trucker Mike. Crew member Trucker Mike on that one.
Well, I don't think he's a convicted felon for serious
No,
crimes.
he's not. He's a great family man.
Yeah.
I will tell you, there is a movie, and not to get two things in people's heads because everybody's so intrigued by this story, but there's a Kurt Russell movie called Breakdown. It is not a popular Kurt Russell movie. It is, to me, his best movie ever. I stumbled on it one day, just passed out on the couch, woke up, it was on TNT or something, and it is almost this story. It's not a college student, but it's about breaking down, and a trucker helps them, but what happens after, I don't want to spoil the movie. It's very similar in a way to a lot of the things you're talking about, even gifts. It even relates to gifts that were given to other people from the kidnapped people. I don't think it's related to this story. I don't because it's not. I've never seen that. Maybe I'll do a deep dive on that movie.
Maybe it's based like loosely on it at the time or something. You know,
it's an incredible, entertaining thriller breakdown with Kurt Russell. That's very similar. Very similar.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I have not seen that.
It came out in the late '90s, something like that. It's a great movie. All right. Whew. Wow. I hate the unsolved ones because it just makes me on a cliffhanger.
I know, and I hate doing that to people, but they're also still one. I also felt like as a woman, this is one that I wanted to share because you feel like, oh, what are the odds? I've actually been in a scenario where I was on the Metra and the train broke down, right? And they had everyone get off, and this train was like, it was done for. And we had passed, because it broke, this is crazy, we needed to like get to our stop. And a guy offered to drive me to like one stop up where my car was.
Right.
And listen, I don't think he planned a train breaking down. He was most likely a good guy, but I'm like, you know what? I'm going to order a Lyft. Like you can't do it even if it seems like, okay, the odds are people aren't serial killers, right? Like statistically, but you can't take that chance because it could ruin your life and end it, you know?
Well, just be aware out there. You never know what's lurking. And we'll keep you updated on it. Kenzie's Crimes. The whole thing, if you just joined us now, will be on the podcast, the Brian and Kenzie podcast, Q101.com. Anywhere you get your podcast, subscribe. It'll be on your feed in a little while here when Case puts it up, and you can check out the entire story again. Thank you, Kenzie.
Yeah.
I love these stories. I love them.
The Q101 Morning Crew.
On Q101.